Good day everyone! It's November 8, 2020, Sunday. Sana po ay nasa mabuting kalagayan po tayo. Family Day po ngayon. And the good news, or the news, is that Joe Biden is the new US President-elect. He wins the presidential election by winning the 20 electoral votes of Pennsylvania. Pero paano nga ba nag-work ang US system of electing their presidents, senators, and congressmen? Tatalakayan po natin yan dito lamang sa special episode ng The Stock Market Today. Before anything else, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris wins the US presidential election by winning the popular vote in Pennsylvania, and in so doing wins its 20 electoral votes to win the US presidential election over Donald Trump, 273 to 214 electoral votes. In order to win the presidency, you only need 270 votes to win. Alam niyo po, when I was still in college, I had this subject called Political Science. Poli-sci kung tawagin namin sa UP. I had several units of those, and one time we studied the political system of the US and how they elect their officials, pero I didn't really understand how it works. Now na lang, after so many years, I slowly began to understand. Today, I want to share with you an article from the Manila Times dated November 8, entitled In Defense of America's Weird Electoral System by Ben Kritz. But before that, let me give you a background on how Joe Biden won. The swing vote was Pennsylvania. It had 20 electoral votes. Before, it was Donald Trump who was leading the popular vote. Whoever wins the popular vote gets the 20 electoral votes of Pennsylvania. Okay, so the count before we knew the popular vote who won in Pennsylvania was 253 for Biden and 214 for Mr. Trump. But with Biden winning the popular vote in Pennsylvania, plus 20, 253 plus 20, that's 273. So panalo na siya doon. Plus the vote of Nevada, which came in later, that was 6 electoral votes. He also won the popular vote there, naging 279. So kahit manalo si Trump sa Georgia, North Carolina at Alaska, wala na. Panalo na si Joe Biden. This is it. In Defense of America's Weird Electoral System by Ben Kritz. So just to share with you a few paragraphs of this on how the US presidential election, US presidential system works. This one. As most people know by now, in the US, the president and vice president who run in the general elections as a pair, as opposed to the Philippines and some other countries where they run separately, are not elected by a direct vote, but rather by something called the Electoral College. When we vote as individuals, who we are actually voting are electors from our respective states who are bound to one party or another. And it is they who will, sometime next month, actually cast the votes that will elect the president and vice president in separate elections. There are 538 electors in total, a number that is equal to the number of members of the Senate and House of Representatives combined. That's 100 and 435 respectively. So if you'll take a look at this number here, 479 is Joe Biden and 214 for Trump, and 45 electoral votes remaining. You add that up, 279 plus 45 plus 214, what do you get? You get 538, okay? Plus 3 for the District of Columbia. In other words, 538 electors in total. A simple majority wins you the presidency. So 538 divided by 2 is 269. Plus 1 vote, that's 270. So 270 to win. The electors are divided among the states the same way. In other words, proportionally according to the state's population. So in other words, titingnan po natin yung largest electoral vote, which is California. it has the largest electoral vote of 55 because it has the largest population among the states. As compared to Alaska, which only had 3 electoral votes kasi konti lang yung population niya. The electors are divided among the states the same way, or in other words, proportionally according to the state's population, 2 representing the 2 senators every state has, plus 1 for each of the state's congressional districts. Senators and representatives, in fact, often serve as electors, although electors may be other people. They are appointed by their political parties in their respective states, and in all but 2 states, Maine and Nebraska, the winner of the popular vote in the presidential election in a state also wins all that state's electoral votes. So in the case of Pennsylvania, so of the 50 states, 48 states winner take all. So in Pennsylvania, since Joseph Biden won the popular vote, he gets all the 20 electoral votes. So as the same with California, where Joseph Biden won the popular vote, 55 electoral votes sa kanya. On the other hand, yung, for example, Florida has 29 electoral votes. Donald Trump won there. Sa kanya napunta yung boto dyan. Okay, let's continue. Maine and Nebraska differ in that they grant 2 electoral votes representing their 2 senators to the overall winner, and each of the electoral votes corresponding to their electoral districts, 2 for Maine and 3 for Nebraska, the winner of the popular vote in those districts. So, only 2 states differ when it comes to voting in the Electoral College. So in Maine and Nebraska, 2 votes goes to the winner of the popular vote, and the other vote goes to the winner of the vote in their respective districts. So let's take that example natin si Nebraska. Nebraska has 5 electoral votes, and it has 3 congressional districts. Now, according to the rule, the winner of the popular vote gets 2 votes. So, since Donald Trump won here, he got 2 votes, and out of the 3 districts here, Donald Trump won in 2 out of the 3 districts. So, he got 2 votes for the popular vote and 2 votes for the 2 out of the 3 districts. So, meron siyang 4 electoral votes and to Joseph Biden's 1. On the other hand, sa Maine naman, merong 4 electoral votes. Since Biden won here, he got the 2 electoral votes. And yung 2 districts naman, one was won by Trump and the other was won by Biden. So Biden won 3 to Trump's 1. So that's how it works. But in general, winner take all in the states. So the winner of the popular vote gets the electoral votes. Okay, sound confusing? Don't feel bad. It confuses a lot of Americans too. Okay, so why does America use such apparently convoluted system? Critics point out that it does not guarantee that the winner of the popular vote will be elected president. A popular meme that has been passed around on social media in the past couple of days sums up the complaint as "people vote, land doesn't," referring to the apparently outsized influence of less populated states on the final outcome of the election. This is the biggest knock against the electoral system, as everyone saw an example of it in 2016 when Yamhead, that's Donald Trump, won despite losing the popular vote to Hillary Clinton. So it is possible to lose the popular vote but win the election because of the electoral vote. That has happened before as well. Andrew Jackson won the popular vote in 1824 but lost the presidential election. Anyway, he came back and won in 1828. Okay, so let's continue. Because there are an even number of electors, so our computation is 538. Although this has not always been the case, it is possible for the presidential election to end in a tie. That has never actually happened. But 3 times in history, elections featured more than 2 candidates receiving electoral votes, but not one candidate secured a majority. The aforementioned election of 1824, which was a mess that made our controversial election of 2016 and apparently the present look cute by comparison, was one of those instances. In that case, or in the case of a tie, the Constitution provides, that's the U.S. Constitution, the Constitution provides for something called a contingent election, in which the House of Representatives, voting by states, chooses the President and the Senate, voting individually, chooses the vice president. So the congressman, the House of Representatives, chooses the president, and the Senate, voting individually, chooses the vice president. Okay. The entire history of how the Electoral College came would take a couple of pages to explain, but the short version is that America's founding fathers, having just created the world's first modern democracy and having no model to follow, came up with it as a compromise to divide political power more evenly between urban and rural areas. Their concern was that with popular vote, highly concentrated cities like New York, Boston, and Philadelphia, which all happen to be in non-slavery states, which is another issue entirely, could control the White House at the expense of fair representation for the rest of the country. In other words, just the sort of tyranny of the masses represented by the current assertion that people vote, land doesn't, was exactly the sort of thing they hope to avoid. And if we step back from whatever our own political sentiments are and view the outcome of the current election objectively, the founding fathers were right. Like it or not, sensible or not, almost 70 million voters, a bit less than half of the total, supported the presumptive loser of the election. But what is more important than that is where those voters are. With only a couple of exceptions, the states that Trump won, he won decisively. Without the electoral system, entire states would be effectively disenfranchised, given that the US has a federal system, and this is something for federalism advocates in the Philippines to think about, by the way, places the power of states over the power of the national government. There is hardly any other way it could be fairly done. So that was a very nice article written by Ben Kritz with a bit of Philippine perspective. Okay, so that's how America's electoral system works, and I hope it is clear with all of us. Sana po ay may natutunan tayo today tungkol sa US presidential system. Please feel free to comment on this episode. I also invite you to subscribe to my channel for the latest news on your favorite stocks and news affecting your favorite stocks. Ito po si Benji Chidoro, laging nagpapaalala, an investment in knowledge pays the best interest. See you again in the next episode. Maraming salamat sa inyong pagsubaybay.